Hello everybody, my name is Igor and I will try to show you how my radial menu is working. Okay, first let's start off with how you should align the graphics. For this menu you can do anything you like. Everything you need to know is that there are like 5 or in this case 4 different stages of the button. You can create each button for itself in its original configuration and then export the image as for each button. For example, if this button is on position 1, we can just export those buttons in the different textures and import into Unreal. Okay, let's back to Unreal and see how it looks like. Okay, in this case you can see like these 3 buttons you saw in the Illustrator, how they are aligned like in the circle with the like 3 pi divisions. It's nothing really nothing special. You can do whatever you like. Let's dive right into creating this menu. Everything I have here is like just like my test project. I created like a game mode that is using my blueprint for my character for sake of presentation, but you can do whatever you like. Uh, let's create the first user widget that will be our button. We need to create a user widget because if we derive the class from C++, it will not have this designer part. So let's do it like this. Blueprint, let's name it as it should be, Radial button. You need only one class of this because you will programmatically change the look of the button in the radial menu. Let's open the radial button. Let's go to the graphs, class settings, and in class settings you need to reparent this class to the plugin DzX radial menu button. After I done so, you will see this error or warning, nonetheless, says that it needs to have one image that is called button look, that will represent how this button is look like. So just use image, put it on canvas, and rename it to button look. Everything I do here is because button size depends on this image. I don't like to change the size of the button inside the button, but I like to do is to anchor this image to the full screen and just remove those borders so the button always adjusts to the size of this widget, and we can resize this widget inside of the parent, radial button, a radial menu that we will load it in. So just compile, the error is gone, just save, and this is it for the button. Okay, I have to just make one deviation from this topic. If you don't have this parent, DzX radial button and radial button menu, you need to check if your plugin is loaded and that radial menu is enabled. If this is everything set up, you're good to go. Let's create another class that is user widget. This will be our radial menu that will contain as many radial buttons inside as you like. As with the buttons, we need to reparent this class, so go to the graphs, class settings, but this time we need to reparent it to the radial menu, not the radial button. With this reparent done, there is no errors because it doesn't really require anything to do. Before we start building, we need to decide how many buttons we need to have in this menu. This menu, for a sake of demonstration, will have 3 buttons because we created 3 buttons in in mind, and we want the 0 menu, this bottom back button, to be on the bottom side, and we want our menu to rise like 0, 1, 2. So it is going counterclockwise, and the first button is on the bottom. Let's go through the parameters. In our radial menu, graphs, and in our parameter menu, we have a divide menu. For a first, we don't need only one button, we need 3 buttons. So our pie is divided in three equal parts. With those 2 parameters, you can measure what's the minimal angle amount of the segment. It means what's the minimal value of one button. If it goes under it, the button cannot be created. This is often used for a large amount of buttons in the menu, just for precaution. The max segment allows you to gives you ability to create the maximum amount of the segment. For example, if I have one button, maximal angle of the segment is 360 degrees. That means the button is a full circle. But if I create like one button with 180 degrees, one button will be like just a half circle, and you will have only one button. If you want to divide the full circle into three equal parts, maximum segment needs to be like bigger than those parts are. But I don't like to overthink this, so just leave it at 360 degrees, so button can be like full circle if there is only one. Rotation of the menu start. By default, start for the menu is on the top, like 12 o'clock, and the orientation is clockwise, like clockworks. So what we need to do to have this button on the bottom side, we need to rotate our menu for 180 degrees. And also, because I want our menu to go like 0, 1, 2, we will rotate, we will change the orientation to counterclockwise. Compile, and nothing visual is done. Let's go back to Designer and load our buttons. This is everything you need to know before setting up the button. Now, loading our buttons, just find the widget you created. This is a blueprint radial menu button we created 1 minute ago. Load, create the size you need, put the anchors where do you like them. I will put the anchor in the middle of the screen. I will make a fixed dimensions of 512. You can put it on the middle of the screen by just reducing the half size. And this is why I told you that I like to use the full screen image without any fixed dimensions. So in this menu I can stretch this button as I please, and I don't need to go back to the button menu and change it. So I will just put it like this, and I will create 2 more buttons of this kind. Let's duplicate this, and one more time. So I have 3 buttons. What I need to do now is to decide which button is which. Let's for the sake of purpose, this one is number 2 and this one is number 0, like this, just for the sake of simplicity. Okay, this button is should be on position 0, so we select this button, and in parameters there is button position. We need to set up this, but because if we don't manually set it up, the program will be confused and maybe there will be some graphical issues. So let's set up the buttons and their orientation. This button is 0, this button is position 1, and this button is position 2. So now menu knows when you click on the 0 that this button is the 1, this one is the number 1, and this one is number 2. Next step is to create how those buttons look. I will not bother to create every stage. I will just create a normal stage and a hover over stage. So select the button, and in button look you have normal, how this menu looks normal. I will choose the state for the normal button. For this is the button ID 0, normal. And another thing I need to choose is the hover over state, also for ID 0. And I will need to do this for every button. Okay, so this is ID 1 normal and ID 1 hover over. Let's see, ID hover over normal, and this one is ID 2 normal. Let's see, I missed. Okay, and hover over normal. After the compilation, you should see your buttons, and now you can realign them how you please. For the sake of showcase, I will not do anything like I will put them like this. There is also one more step before this menu is compiled. I mean, you can compile it, but you cannot use it already. You need to call one class or function that is called setup, because that class divides this menu. Everything we did in these graphs and the divide parameters, we just gave the parameters how this button should, how this menu should look like, but this menu is not constructed yet or divided yet. So what we need to do is just when this menu is constructed, just call the setup menu, setup function, and this menu should work. You can call this class from another class if you need to like use a menu switcher or something like that, so you can have multiple radial menus in one user interface. So you can call this setup every time you load another menu or something like that. Because we are using only one menu, this construct is enough. Let's save it and let's create our menu. If we open the project, now there is nothing on the screen because we need to call it somehow. The easiest way would be to call it through blueprint, level blueprint, but in that case you cannot find your controller and your mouse and everything like that. And for this object, the easiest way is to create it like through my character. My character is nothing special, it's just like empty interface, and this character will create this user widget. So what we need to do is, for example, let's say we need to button B, key or B, and let's find it in the menu. Let's see, just a second. Here I am. B. When I press the letter B, let's create a widget. The widget will be our radial menu, and I can add to viewport, this menu. Compile, save, open. So when I press B, there is menu, but nothing is yet working. Whatever I do, only this hover over effects is showing. So what we need to do now, we need to call our events from a blueprint class, or our character. So we don't have over here click and something like that. It's what we need to do is we need first to show our class or our character to use an interface that is connected with our blueprint. So in our class settings of our character, just go to the interfaces and add DzX Radial menu interface. By doing this, you will have two events that you can override in this menu. But before we start to override those functions, we need to say to our interface that this class is calling those events. To do so, we need to call from our widget that is containing those actions. We need to call set radial menu interface. We can call it before or after or whatever. Let's put it tidy. I don't like our classes to be in a mess. And what we need to say to this, this character needs to is having those calls, and we need to say to our interface inside the blueprint widget that our character is the one that is executing those events. So I will get a reference to itself, to the character, and say to our blueprint when I click to our widget that the character is the one that is executing those functions or events. So now our interface is set up, and all we need to do is to say what will be done after we create this widget. For example, if I say a button click, we cannot use it like this. We need to go to the functions, override, and over here you have a button click. Now you have the event to override. What we will do, we can say, for example, I want this menu to be gone. So what we will do, we will just use this menu. Let's create a variable for this so I can easily create it, promote it to variable. Let's see our menu. And let's reparent this for the sake of tidiness. Let's do it like this. Okay. And now we can use our menu, get, remove from parent. And when we click a button, we can see that this menu is removed. Click, open, and click. To enhance this effect, we can put a play sound on click. I don't know, let's do an explosion, whatever. It's the starter content, nothing special. So B. Okay, to enhance even more, you can override also, like, you can override the hover over effect, and we can also like play sound 2D. We can put the explosion number 2, whatever. Save, compile, let's play. This is how it looks like, but this is a simple steps. What you can do besides those, like just effects, you can take and read some of the functions from, for example, from click. For example, you can see like get angle from center. This is getting your angle of the mouse in compared to the center. So you can print string, for example, print string and see what is this angle. compile, play. When you press the button, you will see the exact angle of your button click. Or if you want to see the segment, you can see like what segment it is. Get segment, get current segment. This function needs to input the angle, so we have angle from this function, and let's just hook them up together and just switch. We don't need this. We need, like, we calculate the angle and now getting the segment, and this will return the number or ID of the segment you are in. Compile. Let's go, for example, for the bottom segment. Let's click. This is the 0 segment. That is correct. Let's B again. This is the number 2. It should be. It is number 2. With this, you can do whatever you like. You can change. You can reconfigure those override functions and make your own logic. If you have any questions, just comment below. I will wrap up this mini tutorial for my plugin. So let's see you around. Bye bye.